It's time to talk about Pokémon Legends Z-A. It's been nearly 9 months since it was revealed, and still there has been no follow-up to that initial teaser. However, since the last time we covered Z-A, to put it bluntly, there had been no Terra leak. And now, well, there has. Riddles, the cryptic leaker who has a track record of correctly predicting details and giving riddles on many past Pokemon games, has livened up in recent days and weeks, with clues about both Z-A and Gen 10. And of course, Centro, the account that got hold of a lot of the leaked data, has been sharing information on both too. Luckily for us, the shared details seem few and far between, but some of these leaks and clues are smaller, and some of them, if true, have quite big implications. So in this video, we're going to be exploring what the latest clues, hints, and possible leaks could mean for what could be an incredible Pokémon Legends Z-A story. Again, massive spoiler warning if you'd rather stay completely oblivious until Z-A comes out, and for everyone else, let's try and make sense of some of the clues, leaks, and riddles. Firstly, let's talk about the game's mascot, which we suspect is going to be Zygarde, right? The first Legends game, Legends Arceus, featured a cover mascot who is essentially the god of all Pokemon, the one above all. The Pokemon responsible for creating the entire Pokemon universe, or at least the Pokemon form of that being that's perceivable to mere humans. In the months leading up to Z-A's announcement, I was pretty convinced that for this very reason, Legends would not become a series, and instead would just be a one-off game for Arceus. My logic was that it would be impossible for them to follow up a Legends game thematically based on the Pokemon equivalent of God. It doesn't get bigger than God after all, does it? Well, I was wrong. It looks like we will have a new story in the new Legends game based on a different legendary Pokemon. Sure, in most respects, Arceus is as big as it gets in terms of raw power and the existential nature of the game's plot. However, many Pokemon in the Pokemon universe are important, even integral parts of the fabric of the Pokemon universe itself. Whether these Pokemon represent concepts, material matter, laws of nature, and many other things. The stakes this time may in some ways be smaller than the god deity Pokemon and its 3 counterparts. But there are still some huge stories to tell, and some legendary Pokemon whose power and unique abilities could rival Arceus itself in certain respects. And so, in Legends Z-A, it's pretty likely that the mascot or main legendary will be Zygarde, the long-forgotten 3rd Pokemon in the Kalos trio of legendaries. The box art legendary that never got its own game. Xerneas represents life energy, Yveltal represents death energy, and Zygarde, we know, represents order. But Zygarde being the only box legendary of this game isn't necessarily confirmed. Yes, Zygarde begins with Z, and yes, the logo is green and black, which is the exact color scheme of Zygarde, but then what's with the -A? Are Pokemon just trying to be quirky and mysterious, or is there a deeper meaning? I've been thinking what Z-A could mean for a while, and why it's not just Legend Z. And there are some major talking points. Firstly, could Z-A mean Zeta? Zeta is a word that's the 6th letter of the Greek alphabet, and we'll get into that shortly. But that alone may link this legendary Pokemon to other important legendary Pokemon. Alpha and Omega are other letters in the Greek alphabet that are already associated with legendary Pokemon. Alpha Sapphire with Primal Kyogre, and Omega Ruby with Primal Groudon. Alpha and Omega are counterparts in that they mean the beginning and the end. Interpret from that what you will, but the way I view it is through the lens of how life on Earth started. We know that Kyogre and Groudon are meant to represent water and land on Earth. So if the Earth's formation process began with water and ended with the formation of land from volcanoes and hydrothermal vents, etc., it all kind of makes sense. But there is one more Pokemon in Kyogre and Groudon's trio, and that is the Delta Pokemon Rayquaza. If Kyogre represents the water and the oceans, and Groudon represents the earth and land, then Rayquaza represents the skies. We established what Alpha and Omega mean as a pair, but how does Delta fit in? Delta has many nuanced meanings, but something underpinning all of the definitions seems to be a notion of change. a slight alteration or addition to some existing framework, for example. And considering Rayquaza's existing lore, this could be very interesting. Rayquaza, firstly, has many potential links and reasons to show up in Legends Z-A. It's canonically the first Pokemon that was able to naturally achieve Mega Evolution thanks to its Mikado organ. Naturally, Rayquaza instinctively navigates the Earth's stratosphere and eats small meteoroids to protect the Earth. These meteoroids then combine with its organ to produce Mega Evolution. This also gives it the power and ability to quell the clashes of Groudon and Kyogre, which it's apparently done many times over the course of history. In many ways then, Rayquaza is naturally a Pokemon whose very existence provides order to the planet. It protects the Earth from dangers and quells the ferocious fighting of Kyogre and Groudon to maintain order. Plus, a lesser but still noteworthy point here is that the last two letters of Rayquaza's name are Z and A. Combine this speculation with what's happening in the anime at the moment, with a core part of the plot revolving around a shiny Rayquaza and a shiny Zygarde, and we're definitely onto something. And in recent days, Riddles has alluded to a link here several times. Most notably when he just a few days ago simply tweeted a picture of shiny Rayquaza, and also when he's given the hint of too much water, referring to the IGN review of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, though admittedly this was a Gen 10 hint and not a ZA hint. But back to what ZA could mean and why it's not just Z. Well, initially when I watched the Pokemon Presents in which Legend ZA was teased, Unknown was very heavily used between announcements. Unknown, of course, is a mysterious Pokemon, with each form representing letters from the English alphabet, i.e. letters A to Z or Z to A. Interestingly, the mysterious 3,000-year-old king who is heavily involved in the X and Y plot is called AZ. And beyond this, I've seen speculation that Area Zero was also a hint to this, perhaps with the crater being caused by AZ's use of the ultimate weapon. Curiously, Ku has recently shared some images that might suggest that unknowns from other alphabets could soon be a thing. But speaking of the ultimate weapon, perhaps if Zeta was the correct pronunciation for ZA, this could also be a double entendre, with a certain 1950s experiment called the Zeta experiment. In this definition, Zeta stands for Zero Energy Thermonuclear Assembly and refers to an attempt to create fusion reactions building on the discovery of quantum mechanics in the 1920s. This, thematically, could tie in with the creation of the ultimate weapon in X and Y, created by AZ, which of course is our game's subtitle in reverse. Also, you could interpret that the real-life Zeta machine looks strikingly similar to the machine below Geosenge that Lysander uses to hold Yveltal or Xerneas. Now, precisely how this would all tie in to create a cohesive story remains to be seen, but these links can't be ignored, and I would suggest definitely hint that Zygarde, Rayquaza, AZ, and perhaps even Unknown as well could all be involved. We have touched on the notion of artificial versus natural in Gen 6 stories on this channel, supported with the inclusion of Mewtwo and the supposed nature of Megastones themselves, bringing out an unnatural, almost painful temporary form of evolution in the Pokemon themselves. Now, if Rayquaza is this magnificent, powerful Pokemon who's not only able to naturally achieve Mega Evolution, but also provides a natural sense of order to the Pokemon world, maybe then the humans of the Pokemon world tried to replicate this order Pokemon through unnatural means. And the result of that experiment was an artificial Pokemon called Zygarde. Maybe Mewtwo developed a knowledge of this artificial creation, and that's the reason why he went to the Kalos region, to further understand his own nature, or even to interfere, monitor, or perhaps warn these scientists of the dangers of creating artificial Pokemon based on existing natural Pokemon. After all, that's exactly what Mewtwo is himself. And Zygarde, after all, combines the word zygote, meaning fertilized life cell, and Garda, meaning to protect, guard, or keep order. Perhaps then, Zygarde is a lab-made Rayquaza. They are both dragon types, with one having the flying subtype and the other having the ground subtype. Interestingly, two parallel types which kind of represent total opposites. You can't look past the aesthetic similarities between the two Pokemon either, with their green and black colour schemes, nor the way the ZA logo forms, with the Z part very clearly representing Zygarde's hexagonal pattern and the A part having a more natural looking green scale effect, perhaps for Rayquaza. Combine all we've discussed with the recent Terra leak alleging that Zygarde itself has a Mega form, and that could very well show us that the final showdown of this game could be Mega Zygarde versus Mega Rayquaza, perhaps even allowing us to choose our ally, a natural or man-made order-keeping guardian of the earth. There may be more details to follow, especially as the leaker seems to have played a PC build of the game, and what's very exciting is that they said they enjoyed it, but annoyingly apparently reported lag. This actually confirms my theory as to why they haven't shown us any gameplay yet, but there could be more details to emerge in the very near future. So stay posted, hit the subscribe button, and let me know all of your thoughts about this theory down in the comments below. Until next time, love you, gang.